England Women's Rugby World Cup winner Maggie Alphonsi joins me in the studio now, along with Adam White, who sits on the board of the England Rugby Football Schools Union. Good evening to you both.
Good
Maggie,
evening,
you started
Maggie.
playing rugby when you were 14. Were you ever hurt when you were playing it as a girl?
I wasn't, no. I guess I only picked up injuries later on in my career. But when I was young, I was managed appropriately. I came into the game slowly, so I learned how to tackle appropriately. So I didn't really pick up any injuries.
You must have seen other young people getting injured, though, surely.
I think when you look at young people in sport, they're always going to pick up niggles, injuries. And yes, I did see some of that. I think what I was quite pleased about when I was growing up, all those injuries got managed appropriately and those young people came back.
So it worked out OK for you, and you went on to win the World Cup. So you think bringing in touch rugby in schools isn't the way to go?
I think touch rugby, tag rugby is appropriate at the real young level, so primary school level, and then you build up to contact. I think contact is incredibly important because it helps build resilience, it helps build those kind of skills which you don't tend to get if you're not doing that level of contact. And for me, if it wasn't for contact, I might not have ever gone further in rugby.
Yeah, Adam, that's coming from a World Cup winner. If children can't tackle each other, will the home nations be able to produce talented winners like Maggie anymore?
Very interesting point. And really the question there is, should we be focusing on producing winners and using children to do that, or should we be trying to keep children safe? We know that 30%, the numbers are around 30% of children are being injured through sport. Obviously looking at the Rugby Football Union's All Schools programme that's trying to aim to achieve 1 million young people in schools playing rugby. That would equate to 300,000 young people being injured playing rugby over the course of that project. Obviously, considering mild traumatic brain injuries as such, that's around 11%, depending on which studies you look at, and therefore the data would suggest that over 100,000 would suffer a mild traumatic brain injury, which of course can have lifelong and life-lasting effects.
Is it still rugby if there's no tackling?
Again, that's focusing on, should we focus on the sport or keeping our children safe?
Well, OK, well, can you do both? Can you still maintain the sport's integrity and keep children safe as well?
Absolutely. So if we look at football in places like Brazil, they changed to futsal, and children aren't saying, oh no, this isn't the game that we wanted or we want to play. And therefore, changing rugby, yes, it might impact a few generations of people, but of course in 5, 10 years, it's just going to be the game they've played.
OK,
so they're not going to know any different.
This letter is concentrating on the home nations, England, Wales, Scotland and Ireland as well. Should it then be a global thing? Should Australia, New Zealand, South Africa and the rest join in?
Absolutely, and if we could achieve that worldwide, it would be a marvellous thing, and I'd be extremely happy and would sleep very easy tonight if that was the case.
Well, I know what you don't like is the fact that rugby is compulsory, a compulsory part of PE for some 11-year-olds, though.
And that's the problem. If people decide and have the option to participate in rugby out of school, whether that's at a club where you've got trained officials, trained coaches, in safe environments, I'm happy with that. But in the school environment, where we know people aren't necessarily trained and they're compelled to play, that's where I've got an issue. Yeah,
Maggie, you chose to play it when you were 14. What about those kids who have to play it as part of PE? Is that right? Because in this letter, these academics and doctors are against that.
Yeah, in this letter, it highlights the fact that kids are put against their will to play rugby. And look, at school, you are exposed to a variety of different sports, which not everyone's going to like. I did cross-country and I didn't enjoy it, but I still did it. And there's nothing wrong with stepping out of your comfort zone to do that. One
more thing they're looking at in Australia is bringing in headgear, protective headgear for kids playing rugby. Surely that could be a happy medium.
Look, headgear, any sort of protective equipment which can help support and prevent injuries is always a positive thing. It's more about trying to help educate and train teachers, coaches, officials to understand and recognise if there should be any potential risk hazards.